Okay, good evening, Jules. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Yeah, it's been a lovely day. The sun's been out, bit windy, but that was put the oxygen in the water, so that's great. Yeah, really good.
Oh, brilliant. So, if we just go through a bit of your angling career, you've pretty much touched everything when it comes to carp fishing. Author, Nash brand ambassador, uh, columnist in various carp fishing
Yeah.
publications. You've pretty much done it all, really, haven't you? So there's not a lot you haven't done in the industry.
I do think I've done a lot, and then I look at Tim Paisley and think, actually, I haven't done that much. But I would say Tim's probably written more words by way of books.
Yeah.
I would say I've probably written more words than anybody else by way of magazines. But obviously, Tim and me, I can't think of anybody else who's written more, certainly in the carp fishing era,
Yeah.
than Tim or me.
Yeah, great. Right.
My
so,
hero.
Yeah. No, he's a lot of people's hero. He's a
Absolutely.
legend gets bandied about a lot too easily, but he certainly is one of them when it comes to
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Right, so obviously we've had some questions from group members. So if we wait for those and answer them how you see fit. So,
Of course.
the first question is, if you could choose one person, past or present, to fish with, who would it be and why? And it doesn't have to be angling personality.
I think, the easy question is to say somebody like my dad,
Yeah.
because he's passed away. But that's not really the point, is it? I would say Kevin Maddox in the 80s. He was my hero along with Richie, Rod, Andy Little, and Kevin were the big four. I fished with Richie, I fished with Andy, I've spent a lot of time with Rod, and I'm not sure that he's my kind of person to fish with on the bank at the time. But I would say Kevin, in the 80s, or certainly in the 80s, I copied Kevin, if I'm being honest. So
Yeah.
Kevin Maddox, anywhere between 80 and 90, that's the guy I would like to fish with. I've fished with the other ones other than Rod, but obviously I've spent time with Rod. I just couldn't. He's a bit too lively for me, or was too lively for me, and I don't think you mind me saying that.
No, that's Rod Hutchinson who you're referring to there.
Yes.
Yeah. Who's the most influential person in your own angling?
Again, just like the other one, I don't want to just band out one name. Obviously, my parents were the most influential because they took me fishing, provided me with money, let me live at home, supported me. So they're really. Then you've got Eric Hodson, of course, who was the BCSG founder, who I happened to see fishing in 1976 at Drax Pond for Tench when he'd given up carp fishing. And he was the first person I ever saw fishing who introduced me to fishing, so that's important. But I don't think you can take away from Tim Paisley. I've known Tim since 86, and I think he is the most influential because of work ethic, the written word, mental fortitude, longevity, putting me in my place. I would say Tim, of all people, is the most influential. An absolute, I won't say slave driver, but the problem with driven people is they don't understand undriven people.
Yeah.
And so you either meet the standard or... So, I would say Tim Paisley.
Yeah.
So anything I've become is really, in the angling, is because of Tim, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, brilliant. So is there a method of angling that you still struggle to get your head around now, or that you don't quite get, or?
I'm a rubbish zig angler. I really am. And the problem with zig angling is a bit like the problem with underwater videos. When you watch underwater videos and you see things not working, you don't say, well, that doesn't even apply to my angling. So, I don't fish in the bright, I don't fish on gravel spots, I don't fish at blah, blah, blah. And my issue is, when I first started zig fishing. Are you getting an echo there? Because I am.
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, that's fine. When I first started zig fishing, I fished a water that was about 7 or 8 foot deep, and you could actually watch them. And I watched fish after fish after fish swim round this big bait. Now, I'm sure they do that on the bottom just as well. But the fact that I'd seen 10, 15 fish just completely ignore a zig, it made me think, it sowed that seed of that's never gone away. It's never gone away. So I'm not a great zig angler. I'm a bait angler.
Yeah.
So fishing a bit of stuff in the middle of the water has never worked for me. I don't see it working on I think it's very specific. Certain times of year, certain waters, and it just is not something that I could spend enough time doing. So I'm poor on zig fishing.
Yeah, I'm a bit like that where I've always got a zig kit in the kit, and if I've been blanking for a bit, I'll just put it out just as a last change of tactic to see if it works, but it never does seem to work. So yeah, I've never been confident with zig myself.
It's like chucking one of the margins for me. The only time I've ever been successful is when I forced myself to do it.
Yeah.
One of my local waters in winter was a sand pit, probably 4 to 9 feet deep, and I used to just take, on crisp day, 2 zig rods, no bottom bait, nothing I could fish on the bottom, so I had to fish the zigs. To be fair, I did catch quite a few, but if I'm being honest, I don't enjoy that kind of fishing.
No.
And so unless I'm having my bottom spanked by people who are catching loads more fish, I'm prepared to just accept I'm crap.
Yeah.
If everybody else was killing on it, I'd copy them.
Yeah. No, can't say further than that. Is there anything from your fishing past that you used to do or did that will make you cringe now? I think we've seen something about a perm.
Well, yeah. Well, anything about my past? Oh my God! I think you should grow up when you're young, dumb, and full of whatever.
Yeah.
When you're in your 20s and 30s, you don't have the wisdom that you had when you were younger, when you're older. So there are probably behaviour, not nasty, but not overconfident, which can seem as arrogant. So yeah, some of that I would sort of at times. There's lots of things, aren't there, that when you think about stacking carp and things like that. But what I would say is everything I've done badly that I've learned from, I've always not done again. I've corrected myself.
Yeah.
So when I've, done things that I look back and think, shouldn't have done that, I never keep repeating the same mistake. So probably I would say sometimes giving up water tickets that really I should have kept on. Sometimes not taking up offers of fishing waters that I really in later times should have done. Sometimes blindly persevering with baits, again, that I shouldn't have done. And when you're younger, you're very impressionable as well. So even when you're catching loads of fish on Peanut Pro, or you're catching loads of fish on Semolina, and then you read somebody who fishes a water, nothing like what you fish, but you think, well, if it works for him, it'll work for me. And again, it's very site specific. So I've probably made the same mistakes that everybody else does. But yeah, nothing that I can bring to mind that I think, really bad. When I used the bent hook, when everybody did, but when I realised it caused damage, I stopped doing it.
Yeah. So obviously the Britain's sexiest angler moment was quite a proud moment for you then.
Well, to be fair, it was a proud moment 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It didn't really resonate that much with my girlfriend at the time.
No.
And I never got that because I was only seeing it through my eyes.
Yeah.
I'm looking back and I'm thinking, if she'd been voted the sexiest woman, yes, I'd be proud, but I'd also be a bit, yeah. And I didn't, but that was okay.
Yeah.
And my boss was not that impressed by it because I'm a legal advisor, position of authority, blah de blah de blah, could not have got away with it now in the civil service.
No.
In the olden days, the boss said, you know, be careful and let me go. But nowadays in the civil service, I probably would have been given me P40 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It was a laugh. It gave a lot of people a laugh.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So, for anyone new coming into the sport, what advice would you give to them?
Dead simple. Go and fish. Forget the size of carp. Once you can catch 6-pounders, you can catch 10, then you can catch 15s. To become good at anything is repetition. You don't become a Tour de France winner on your first go, nor do you climb Everest, etc. The thing with carp fishing is people want to do it too quickly. So my advice would be find a water as local as you can, so you can fish it as often as you can, that's full of carp from, say, 8 or 9 pounds up to mid-doubles, 20s, and concentrate on catching them.
Yeah.
The more you catch carp, the more you will learn about carp fishing. You won't learn about carp fishing catching 1 carp a weekend. You will learn about carp fishing catching 10 or 15 carp a weekend, because then you can see what too much casting, not being accurate, you know, how the weather it changes things. So I would say go to a water stuffed full of carp, and then you will learn why, if you lengthen your hook length, shorten your hook length, get up at dawn, go to bed late. You don't learn that by catching 6 20-pounders in 1 year. You learn that by catching 200 carp in a year and thinking to yourself, I should have had 250.
Yeah.
One of the most famous anglers, really talented, is a guy called Zen and Bodjko. And I read one of his articles in one of the BCSG books, and he fished a place called Layer Pits, which it's still well known now, but in those days it was heaving with smaller carp, maybe small ones, 1 or 2 big ones, and he caught hundreds, maybe even thousands of carp, him and his mate. And he says that was the best learning curve ever, because they learned that if they dropped a foot short, they didn't catch, if they increased the length of the braid, and they learned so much that they could then apply to fishing for slightly bigger fish. So forget about the weight of carp, size of carp, that will come.
Yeah.
Catch. You want to really, in your first year of fishing, if you said 12 months of carp fishing, you want somewhere that is stuffed full of carp, and you can catch them in summer, autumn, and even some in winter.
Yeah, brilliant. So, what has had the biggest impact on your carp fishing over the last 10 to 20 years?
Biggest impact? Well, the biggest impact in the last 6 years, of course, is not going to work.
Yeah.
Or not having a full-time job. But that's a bit of a cop-out. I would say in the last 15, say since 2000, for me it's the multi-rig, the pop-up presentation. Now, in the 80s when I started carp fishing, all the Yorkshire waters where I fished were very weedy, and we had to use pop-ups to catch carp. All the sort of the Cheshire northern waters, those were silty, and mainly down south they were gravel pits. And I remember being poo-pooed, oh, blatant pop-up rigs, they're no good, what a noddy setup. But I'm thinking, no, if you watch nowadays, what do all the underwater videos do? They talk about rigs that reset.
Yeah.
Reset. And the best resetting rigs are pop-up rigs. And I realised that, and I wrote about it in the late 80s in depth, saying that people who use bottom baits on the waters I use, the weedy waters, they often got quick runs, and if they landed them, great. But if they didn't catch a fish in the first couple of hours, they didn't get one. If they got another run, it fell off. And without a shadow of a doubt, that was, if they dropped it on the fish and got a bite straight away from an early take, that was great. But if the fish are moving around, disturbing the weed, disturbing the hook bait, the hook's catching on the bottom, it is not resetting. And with a pop-up rig, it is, that hook point is always off the bottom. And I've said this for now, I would certainly say not less than 35 years,
Yeah.
a rig that can reset itself is effective from when you cast it out to when you wind it in. And all the underwater videos will show you that. And from probably the 2006, 2007, when Mike Kavanagh showed me a very early multi-rig, and I've adapted that probably in the principle's the same, but everything else is changed in it. That has made my 90%, maybe 95% of my fish are caught on the multi-rig, and that has made such a difference. And it does make me smile now, the people who make films, do articles, write about it, go on about these overshotted rigs that reset, the carp can't get away with it. And I think I was saying that 35 years ago when you were poo-pooing me. But that's the way it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you go back and look. The good thing about print is it's there if you don't believe me.
Yeah, exactly. No one could say you didn't say that. Right, so which boil it or flavour by Nash from days gone by do you miss the most?
For me, it was the key. The key, the occasion, I mean, the thing nowadays is most, if not all, baits from the major manufacturers work well. They can't afford to have a bait that doesn't produce because it can drag the brand down. Most baits produce now, and if you chuck a sellout, a B5, a krill, a manila, a scope bait squid, generally that is going to catch your carp, and if it's not, you're doing something else. Occasionally, baits, for some reason, just seem to work better. And for me, it was the key. Nash did the key 2015, maybe around then. And I saw Crowe catching so many big fish on so many different waters. And I know, Simon, it definitely ain't his rigs. It's definitely not those clever rigs. And it was the first bait that I've ever gone. And Nashy said, you don't need much of it, just spread it around, blah, blah, blah. And I did that and I caught well. And then I thought, do you know what? I'm going to try using a lot of it in 12 mil. And every water I took it on, I absolutely mullered it. And there was something in that bait that when they were on it and found it, they would not go till it's all gone. And I've watched carp in the edge, and they don't just come in and muller it all. They pick, they go back, they come round, unless it's an overstocked water. And for some reason, when carp found the key, they would not go till it had all gone. And the mouths, you could tell that because instead of getting 20-minute, half an hour feeding spells, you were getting feeding spells. Yeah, not speeding fells. Feeding spells that were like 3-4 hours until all the bait had gone. The mouths of these fish were black. And that wasn't just once or June or July. It was everywhere I took it. And that is the one. Yeah. Unfortunately, to produce it was so expensive, and it was, the majority of people buy bait on price. Yeah. The bulk of bait is bought on price. It doesn't matter how effective it is, it's the price. And literally, Nash could have said anything, but they could not sell it because people would not spend what it costs to produce and what the tackle shops had to make the margins from. But for me, that was the best bait I ever used. It'll never come back because it's too expensive to produce.
Yeah. So, what do you think is most important in carp bait between the colour or the smell/flavour?
I think if they're eating, if you are feeding them, I think it's the attractors. I think the colour, if you could only fish no free operants and just bait, just a hook bait, colour is definitely the one, because you could go from a pink to a yellow and you'll get a take on a yellow where you could go on a pink, or to a white or whatever red. But when you are fishing over a feed bait, I believe it's the attractors. So single hook baits, you literally want 6 pots with you, same flavour, white, pink, yellow, orange, 12 mil, 14 mil or 15 mil. and that's what you need. But personally, I think I don't think colour is important when the fish are feeding or feeding on a bait. In fact, I don't think it's important at all. In fact, not having colours more attractive.
Yeah. So when it comes to boilie prep, do you soak them in water, use liquids, or not soak at all? And if you don't soak them, do you worry about them being soft enough?
It all depends on the waters. The harder the water, the more likely I am to start soaking the boilies. On waters where fish rely on bait or are bait eaters, I think you could just use it as it is.
Yeah.
But there are some waters, especially where the fish aren't dependent on it, waters that aren't very pressurised or are ultra pressurised, where the fish, they learn from the mistakes. And I've fished 1 or 2 local waters where straight out the bag you catch them, because the hungry boilie eaters, they know if they don't eat, somebody else will. But there are other waters where if you put boilies straight out, where fish are not the more natural food eaters, I've seen them literally ignore it until it breaks down. And whatever bait you use, if you get a kilo or half a kilo and put it in a bucket, well, in a bait tub, soak it. You soak it for 2 days. That water is so strong, you know. And I think that if you're not getting takes pretty quickly, and the only action is coming a day or so later, I think it's those carp are not prepared to eat it when it's neat. You know, and I'm not saying I would do that on Braid's Nose or, you know, any productive waters, but on pressurised waters or waters that are not boilie feeders, I have seen carp just ignore bait that is straight out the freezer or the packet and wait literally till it's broken down. I've seen it with pellets.
Yeah.
You can put bits out and they won't touch it until it has broken down. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that they often wait till the boilie has just turned into crumb and mush and the smell of it has gone, you know, dumbing it down. So if it's working for you and everybody else and you're getting bites quite quickly, if you're getting bites in 12 hours, I don't think it's making a difference. But if you're not getting bites for 24 hours and you think you're on fish and it's becoming something of a topic, a thing that's in your mind, try it.
Yeah. Right. So, if you could go back to the start of your fishing journey, what piece of kit from now would you like to take back with you?
My fishing journey was 1976.
Yeah.
So I would say, being quite honest, line. You know, the line in those days was so unreliable.
Yeah.
It was either tow rope or flimsy. You know, a lot of the guys. I'm just going to let a bit more light in.
Yeah.
Not a problem. There we go. A bit more light. A little bit. So, back in the early days, line was either brittle or super stretchy. Silcast 9 and 11 pounds. You could walk a couple of yards, just taking the stretch out of it. So for me, reliable line would be the one thing. Maybe reliable brollies as well.
Yeah.
You know, or reliable. I would say reliability.
Yeah.
There's nothing about the olden days tackle that I miss. Yeah. I love looking at Abu Cardinals. I love looking at the old gear.
Yeah.
But like a classic old motorbike, they don't perform any better.
No.
The best reels in the 70s and 80s compared to the best reels nowadays are not in the same league. They're not.
No.
And I love Cardinals and I love my old Hutchie Horizons. But it's like when I tried one of, I used to have an XT 250 motorbike that I loved. It was my first love. And when I was wealthy enough to buy a classic, I went and sat on one and thought, I love this, and I still love the look of it, but it's got drum brakes. It doesn't stop well. It's got no suspension. it rattles. It's a death trap.
Yeah.
So the rose-tinted glasses should always be put to one side.
Yeah, I agree. Right. So, how did your passion for angling come about, and what drew you to carp? Because she was originally sort of a tench fisherman, weren't you, before you went into
Yeah, I was a tench fisherman because you are subject to your environment.
Yeah.
And I fished a water that got tench up to £7 in 1978, 79.
Yeah.
And you are subject to your influences. There was no internet then.
No.
Carp fishing was seen as bizarre as eel fishing now. So if you say eel anglers, it's like, whoa, they're a stretch. Carp fishing in the up to about 82, 83, you're either a coarse angler, a match angler, or a specialist angler.
Yeah.
And if you were a specialist angler, you were as likely to be a tench angler as you were a barbel angler, as a bream angler, as a pike angler, or a carp angler.
Yeah.
It was just another facet of fishing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I pike fished in the winter, I eel fished in the summer, I, you know, tench fished in the midsummer. They were just, I was multi-species.
Yeah.
I caught a few small ones, and I wasn't that impressed. But when I caught my first double-figure carp, it was like, wow. You know, a 12, I think it was about £12, £13. Now that was probably only a quarter of the record. I caught tench to £6.5, which was nearly half the record. That carp was nothing special,
Yeah.
but a 12-pounder compared to a £6 tench, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
That was it. It was like a light switch.
Yeah. Right. Brilliant.
Talking of which, a light switch. Oh, that's a bit. Yeah, there we are. A bit more light.
There we go.
There's a light.
You see it now.
The light.
lovely.
That was like carp fishing.
There he is, Britain's sexiest angler back again.
Yeah, 30 years ago, maybe.
Well, you're still Britain's sexiest angler to me, Jules, if that means anything.
Ah, well, you're a very wise man. But can I tell you, Specsavers do good glasses as well.
Right, I'll make an appointment in that case then. Right, this is the final question. This is one I'm going to sort of ask everybody. I've chucked in for myself at the end. It's a little cheeky question. What's your favourite snack / guilty pleasure on the bank?
My favourite snack, guilty pleasure. Well, the thing is, you learn from experience, and I know, as an angler, I fish better hungry, and it just sounds daft.
Yeah.
I've always done. To me, and it's weird, food has always been a fuel for me.
Yeah.
So I've never been an avid eater, and before my good lady moved in, I lived on rice, chicken, fruit, the most mundane, boring stuff, because I just saw a way of it fueling me.
Yeah.
I was never in love with food. And I realised that when I was fishing, if I was slightly hungry, I was less lethargic. And I have been fishing with people before, and they've had cheese and biscuits, and I've had chocolate, I've had a beef burger on the bank, and about 30 minutes later, I'm like, I fish better hungry.
Yeah.
If I could have a guilty pleasure, which also does me good, it's scrambled egg. I love scrambled egg.
Yeah.
And it's so boring. But when I'm in a bike ride a lot, and I always used to do what everybody else did. I have a coffee stop and you have cake. And that was great. You'd be amped up on sugar. You do about 30 minutes, then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
and I thought, I'm not going to have like scrambled egg because it's a big meal. You know, you have a little bit of cake, or you have a plate full of scrambled egg, and my brain's going, too much to take round.
Yeah.
And the first time I had scrambled egg, I thought, well, that actually didn't weigh me down, and I feel stronger. And the more I looked into it, the more I realised that you are what you eat. When you're young, you can eat any old crap on the bank and get away with it.
Yeah.
But believe you me, when you get over 40, it catches up on you. I don't care who you are. And I've realised that, you know, I fish better hungry. And, you know, my guilty pleasure, if I'm being honest, is catching a carp and the next morning stopping off at a favourite roadside cafe and having scrambled egg or fried eggs, brown roll, and mushrooms.
Oh yeah.
That is my guilty pleasure.
Yeah, that does sound good to me. Right, well that's all the questions, Jules. So really appreciate you coming on and going through them with us. It's been brilliant. Is there anything you'd like to add, or anything you'd like to say to anybody, or
No,
anything to promote?
you know, I love carp fishing for what it is, and probably 30 years ago now, I was catching. You know, when you're younger, we're all the same. You know, you want a new car, you want a new girlfriend, you want something better all the time. And I remember in 1993/94, I caught 40 odd 20s in 1 year on overnighters in Yorkshire, which was good.
Yeah.
The next year I pushed myself and caught, I think, 45. So that was 2 more 20s on overnighters. And I remember putting the last fish back because I wanted to break my own record. And the last one came, and these are just overnighters, and not cheap. These are like work overnight. Not these builders who go at 2 o'clock and pack up at 9 in the morning.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting there till 6 o'clock, and I was off for 6:30 at the latest. And I remember catching one in November. I think it was my 45th 20 that year, whereas the year before I'd had 43. And in those days, you didn't have mobile phones to carry all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you had to take the pictures, all self-takes, and it was slide film. Sent them off, Fuji slide film, sent them to wherever it was, somewhere in Wales, actually. And it came back to me, and I looked at these slides, and I put them on the projector, and I thought, I don't even remember anything about that fish at all. And I thought, I remember catching it, but there was nothing that stuck in my mind. And I remember thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I just going to catch? What am I going to do next year? Catch 47, 49, 62.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm doing this for not me, but for other people, or what I think other people will think of me. And literally 30 years ago, I thought, I ain't bothered anymore. What I do it for me.
Yeah.
And so my advice to anybody is do it for you. It doesn't matter whether you use a boat or not a boat. It doesn't matter whether you catch 1 carp a year or 1,000. Nobody's putting them on your gravestone. It's not going to change your life. And one day you're going to wake up and think, I don't know why I'm really doing this. And it's like the king's new clothes.
Yeah.
And nobody's dared say, you haven't got any clothes on. And I think a lot of people drop out of carp fishing because they're doing it for other people or what they want other people to think of them.
Yeah.
And believe you me, nobody ever comes up to me and asks me how many you've caught, what size are they, you know, things like that. I do it for me on my waters, and what anybody else thinks about it doesn't, and I don't mean disrespectfully, means not a difference to me at all.
Yeah.
There's somebody who's caught a lot less than carp than me. There's somebody who's caught a lot more carp from me.
Yeah.
But all that matters is you enjoy it. And I look at your group, and you see people with keep nets on the floor that have caught a 6-pounder, a 5-pounder, and are smiling.
Yeah.
And then you see people on social media who look grim as anything and say, oh, it was just an upper 20, it wasn't the one I wanted. And I think, which of those 2 people has got it right?
Yeah, exactly. The one that's
Which
smiling.
of those 2 people has got on that day elated?
Yeah.
And all I would say is, do it for you, and then you'll do it for life. Push biking. I don't look at Strava. I could not give a toss whether I did it quicker or slower last time, whether somebody else did it quicker. So, you know, that's all I would say is, you know, do it for you. And if you do it for you, you'll do it for life, honestly. Yeah,
so do it for you, do it how you want to do it, and don't judge anybody else for how they do it.
Yeah, and also don't judge other people for it, because you don't know what they've done to catch those carp, or you know what it's entailed. It's very easy to be judgmental against other people.
Yeah.
And I would think count to 10, because that person can look at you and only sees a 1D picture. Nobody sees it in 3D. They either see the picture of the fish, or there's nothing else. It's just the fish.
Yeah.
Not the hours, not the intensity, not the money they spent, not where they live. You know, it's do it for you.
Exactly. Well, I think that's the perfect note on which to finish this up. And again, say thank you very much for coming to join us. Really do appreciate that.
Okay.
And yeah, really pleased with that. So thank you very much. You're my first one. Going to get better from
Absolutely
here.
my pleasure.
Yeah.
Absolutely my pleasure.
Right. Well, I'll say goodbye then, and I'll say thank you very much.
Thanks everybody, and obviously anybody can always keep in touch with me. They can contact me on social media. I'll always answer it.
Yeah.
That's my little bit to carp fishing.
Yeah, you're an inspiration, Jules. I can say that for sure.
Thank you very much. I'm very honoured and proud to hear it, genuinely.
No, I do appreciate that. Well, take care, mate, and I'll probably see you at one of the shows in the future, no doubt.
You will do. I'll sign off now then.
All right, catch you later. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Bye.